Good morning. I'm calling to order the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education meeting on Wednesday, February 28th, 2024 at 9:03 a.m. I'm Susan Yankee. I'm the chair as well as a parent member. So during this meeting, we're going to use a lot of acronyms. SAC is the acronym for this council. And CSDE we use a lot, and that's Connecticut State Department of Education. So if you use an acronym, if you could just remember to say what it is, because I think Jen is keeping count and right, taking names. Who doesn't? Right. Did anyone hear that?
Yeah, wow.
Matthew?
That was Matthews. He muted. So go ahead.
Oh, Tom, you're a genius. Okay. Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Jolie. Okay, so the council's purpose and function. So the SAC brings together the CSDE educators, related service providers, administrators, legislators, parents, as well as students and persons with disabilities. We are all dedicated to supporting the students with special education needs. And we have really great exchanges of ideas during our meetings, and this diverse group of stakeholders, we function as one unit. We all work together and we formulate our priorities and recommendations that we share with the Connecticut State Department of Education and the Connecticut General Assembly through our annual report. So if you want any more information, please go to the CSDE website and you can find our past meeting videos and annual reports. So introduction and roles. As I call your name, please introduce yourself and your role on the council. And I think everybody has their full name displayed. Okay, so I'm going to go around the room. Missy, would you be first?
Sure. Missy Wrigley, and I am here as a parent of a young boy with an IEP.
Wonderful. Jake?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jake Shumbo, and I am a student representative.
Thank you, Jake. Catherine?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Sum, and I represent Aging and Disability Services, Bureau of Education and Services for the Blind.
Thank you. Tom?
Good morning, Tom Kosker, here representing Disability Rights Connecticut, the protection and advocacy system in Connecticut, and I'm also a parent.
Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jen Lucier, and I represent parents of children with disabilities.
Dimpy?
Hi, I'm Dimpy Malvania, and I'm here as a parent.
Nachi?
Good morning, everyone. Nachi Bhatt. I represent Department of Children and Families and all children in care.
Great. Mary Beth?
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Bruder, and I'm at the University of Connecticut, and I represent higher education. And as I said before, I apologize. I'm going to have to get off in about 2 minutes to do a welcome for this national meeting that we're sponsoring. And then I'll be back because this is important to me also.
Great. Kimberly?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Williamson. I represent speech language pathologists.
Great. Joviana?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joviana Morales, and I'm here as a parent.
Great. Dawn?
Hi, I'm Dawn Dickow, and I am here both as a parent educator representative and as a parent.
Thank you. Sean?
Good morning. I'm Sean Cronin. I work at the State Department of Education with Brian in the Bureau of Special Education.
Thank you. Jane?
Good morning. I'm Jane Hampton. I work for the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and I represent the parents who call our center.
Thank you. Lori?
I am Lori Fortuna. I'm a parent representative.
Thank you. Josh?
Hi, I'm Josh Martin. I am Administrator of Special Education and represent Concase.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yes, Jeffrey Spar. I'm a parent representative, and I'm also the chair of the Legislative Committee.
Thank you. Brian? Okay, we have Brian Klemenkowitz on from CSDE. Oh, Brian, thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Brian Klimkowitz, Special Education Division Director.
Thank you. And Jolie, you want to introduce yourself? I know. No? Okay. Jolie is also.
Sorry, guys. I was on mute. Not a little uncoordinated right now. Hi, guys. Jolie Medina. I am your support staff. Whatever you need. Susan Yankee's not around. You email me, and have a great meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I have missed who's on our council? Because sometimes my screen doesn't show everybody. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to public comment.
Sorry, did Nachi introduce himself?
Yep.
Okay, that's the only person. Okay, gotcha.
I see 2 people on currently for public comment. Do we have anybody that called in?
Do not have anyone that called in. I only see Lisa, and then I think
Robert.
that is okay. I have, hold on. All right, yep, I can see him on the gallery.
Great.
So hi, Robert.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you. So anyone that's here for public comment, you have about 3 minutes. Be advised, we can only listen and not respond, but we'll take in consideration anything that you say at a later date if needed. After you do make your comment, if you would turn off your video and your sound if you're going to stay for the full meeting, or you can join on, watch on through the YouTube live presentation. So let's see. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure.
You're old hat at this, right?
Oh, yeah. Do we ever become pros at this? I don't think so. Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak with this distinguished group of parents and educators and service providers and advocates and that comprise the Council for Education. And congratulations on that impactful 2023. I read the annual report, and I am very grateful for the hard and significant work and the achievements. I come to you today not as an acclaimed educator with multiple degrees or a service provider or legislator, but I have some unique experience that I hope will help people think differently. Before becoming a full-time advocate for my son with a disability, I was the director of original programming at Lifetime Television. While there, I produced the highest rated nonfiction program in cable TV history and held that rank for 7 years. And some people would ask me, well, how did you do that? And I had a few answers, but often I would say, 1, limited funds, because we had the lowest budget out of all the cable networks. And most importantly, I had an unwavering understanding of what was meaningful to our audience. And I'm going to ask you to keep track of that word meaningful because it's paramount to what I have to say. Limited funds forced us to only put resources towards what was meaningful to our viewer. And most importantly, I knew those needs very well. So why do I tell this story to the esteemed Connecticut Special Education Committee? Because we share this shaded part of the Venn diagram. We all want meaningful outcomes, and we know we have a limited budget. So I'm going to apply that shared desire for meaningful outcomes as it applies to students that receive transition services. And transition, it might be an interesting place to start, but every good plan has the ending in mind, which is transition. So my mantra is, if we want better results for adults, we need better results for children. So if we're going to spend 17 years educating a student, spending millions of dollars, time and effort, it must end in a successful transition, or what was the point? I am part of a team of parents led by the highly respected Molly Cole, and we have a passion to make meaningful transitions for as many students as possible. Our group has spent hundreds of hours researching and transition practices, not only in Connecticut, but across the United States. And we concluded there is no significant data about what makes a transition outcome successful. We have no idea how we're doing. And qualitatively, we have spoken to over 50 parents, advocates, and providers. And what we heard over and over again is that transition is confusing, that much of the curriculum is not effective, and without crazy, passionate parents, and I'll add an acronym here, we're called CPPs, the chances of success are slim, especially if you are a student who steps off the cliff at 22. And it's not for lack of time.
Lisa, I'm so sorry, because we have limited time today. Everything you're saying is amazing, but we've gone over time. Is there any way you could put that in the rest of your thoughts in an email? And if you send it to Jolie and myself, we are trying to also have public comment online. But thank you so much.
I want you to have my email address, and I want to hear from the heroes in the room who wanted improved transition here. So it's lisa@allenee.com, and you are welcome to also ask Susan for the information.
Definitely.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Oh, don't worry about it, Lisa. We appreciate your passion. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Robert, did you like to say something?
Well, this is the first time I'm here, and I consider it a privilege to listen in. Thank you so much for the opportunity to listen in. And so I'm a parent of, actually, I have 4 different children, and we have been trying to advocate for our children for decades now. And unfortunately, I think it's harder than it really needs to be. But anyhow, I applaud all your efforts. I have spoken to some of you. I have looked at some of your resources, one in particular, Missy Wrigley and Transition, and some others. So thank you for all that you've done. And I am very interested in speaking with you, Lisa Nee, as well, because my youngest now is 16, and he is finally at 16 years old in a place where he's been outplaced by our district, and he says, "I can learn here." And I am so excited that he is finally at a place where he is not giving up on life. There was a time he was the process, unfortunately, I think so many people have done such a great job, but unfortunately, it seems as though many of the much of the work that people are doing, unfortunately, is not really, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's getting to where it needs to go. And I'd like to try to figure out how we can be effective with the limited budget that is available and the resources. One of the things is that we're supposed to take triennial data, and then we are also do progress monitoring. Unfortunately, in our situation, we take the triennial data, and then it doesn't get reflected on the IEP, and then we have isolated contractors. In my son's case, there's like 20 different people on his team, and no one really is collaborating, and they just report out for 10 minutes at a PPT of how they're doing in their specialty, and everything's going great, and then they just get off the PPT and move on. And unfortunately, he was identified with severe dyslexia at 5 years old by their neuropsych, and now he's 16, and he's finally at a place where he can actually receive structured literacy, and quite frankly, as defined by Patricia Anderson, as many of you may know, about a decade ago, she and a task force made tremendous resources available, and I'm very excited that she had those, but unfortunately, it was not implemented or used, and it seemed to be pulled off the website or just not used by our district. And now I understand that Brian Klimkowitz, thank you so much for your efforts and some of the folks that you've started this new council. I can't remember what it's called, OORD, Office of something, Reading Dyslexia, and how you now are going to continue to try to help in the effort of dyslexia. I think it would be wonderful for all of our students. It is the proper way to teach kids, even if they don't have dyslexia. And I know there's legislation to help teachers, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be getting to the boots on the ground. And I'm hoping that your staff that you have there on that team is going to implement what Patricia Anderson did about a decade ago. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. So
And-
sorry to cut you off. We are so behind in our agenda.
Sorry.
But please come again. Please, please, please. We appreciate public comment. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. And again, anything else you wanted to say, please send it into an email to Jolie. And then so for any additional public comment, thank you so much.
Good luck in your fight.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, next we have consent agenda. So we do not have our January 24th minutes for approval. So we need to move them to our next meeting on March 27th. So would someone like to make a motion to move the minutes for approval to our next meeting?
I'll make the
So
motion.
moved.
Jeff? Okay, who wants to be second? Everyone's so quick.
I will.
Oh, Jake. Okay, all right, great, thank you. So, and I don't believe we need to do abstentions, but let's do abstentions. Nope, okay, all approval to move the January 24th full SAC meeting minutes to the next meeting for approval. Raise your hand, please. Good hand raise, Jake. All right, thank you so much. So we will be now, it's been approved and we are moving the minutes to the next meeting to be approved. I believe next is old business. Why am I always in old business? Anyways. So quickly, if you needed a travel reimbursement for our last in-person meeting, could you please email Jolie? That's for parents and students and persons with disabilities, anyone whose agency is not giving them a travel reimbursement. Great. Executive committee report. We are going to do, there we go. We're going to do a quick review of this, and I'm going to ask Jovi, Anna, and Catherine to help me with this. If you could put the next slide up, pretty please. So Tom and Jolie were able to set us up with a speed date with the education committee. And Representative Comey gave us the sage advice to only cover low, no-cost legislation that they could actually possibly move during this legislative short time we have. And so we had a 15-minute speed date with Senator McCrory, Representative Curry on the Education Committee, and also in attendance were legislative aides, analysts, and attorneys. So Joviana, do you want to do the first restraint and seclusion quick slide because you were the person that spoke so eloquently about it?
No problem. So as it stands right now for restraint and seclusions, it requires that parents be notified within 24 hours. And we were asking to replace the wording to say on the day of, not to be 24 hours. So on the day that this restraint and seclusion occurs, parents to be notified on that day. We also requested that parents be notified via phone or in person, unless that person agrees to be notified in a different manner via email, let's say. And lastly, we asked for the notification to be in the parent's native language, and that's separate from the child's language. And that is very important because the child may speak English, but the parent may not. So it is important to understand that the parent's language so that they can be communicated in their language.
Thank you, Jovi. And Jovi was able to explain to them that it was a separate issue from the, what is it, the ESL Bill of Rights?
Yes,
yeah, it was covered under that, and they didn't take into. Yeah. They didn't. So Joviana was very helpful. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
On that? Regarding the notification by phone, would that also include text message? That would be by phone, but it's also written. So, and I'm wondering whether they can agree to written notification. Sometimes you'll say, "Oh, do you agree to accept it by text?" I think that it might be good to have us say possibly and text or something like that, so the person, they might be busy in a meeting or something like that, but they could all of a sudden see the text. So I'm just throwing that out there. We might want to include that in our ask.
That's really great, Jeff, and we should keep an eye on that if it actually pops up in legislation that's proposed.
Okay.
Thank you for thinking that. Wonderful. Catherine, do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, do you have the next slide? Okay, great. Okay, so during the speed dating, I presented on behalf of the SAC the challenges that we're facing regarding teacher shortages in Connecticut and how a lot of those shortages are really tied back to all of the costs that student teachers have to incur, ranging from tuition to cover the cost of the internship student teaching course they're required to take, all the way down to background checks and personal childcare costs that they may incur while they're student teaching. So I presented a model to the Education Committee that's already in practice. And this is a model that was created by Tennessee 2 years ago, where they are creating, or they have created a program for teachers to get paid while they're doing their student teaching practicum. It's been it's really successful. And the template is there for Connecticut and other states to replicate. And I also pointed out some potential partnerships that already exist should such a model be created in Connecticut, such as Teach for America CT, and utilizing the durational shortage area permit. So they were really receptive to our idea, and I'm excited to hear where the Education Committee goes with this.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments? No. Awesome. Wonderful. So they were very excited to get the fact that Tennessee had already done this successfully. Right. And I want to also thank Jeffrey, because this seed germinated from his daughter's experience. Also, we had a few minutes left, so I was able to throw in that Special Education Teacher of the Year, because we really want to uplift the profession. And again, the legislators were surprised that special education teachers were not being recognized. Also, they asked us if, we also asked about interstate reciprocity, right? We already mentioned that, right? Great. And they're already working on that. It said they're already working on that, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah, because currently we only have reciprocity with, I want to say, is it like 11 or 12 other states, and they're all along like the northeastern seaboard. So yeah, they did assure us that they're looking into that.
I see a Missy hand. Missy?
Just to clarify some, for Teacher of the Year, special education teachers do get nominated on occasion as Teacher of the Year within their districts. I was nominated one time, so I know that that's a fact. I know of other special ed teachers that have been nominated. They're not, I don't know that if there's been any that have actually been selected, but through individual districts, I know that special education teachers have been nominated, so.
I think that's wonderful, Missy, but I think I went back 11 years. And
yeah, I don't know that any actually came up to the, to that point, but
it would be nice.
It would be very nice.
Because part of the Teacher of the Year is to be an ambassador for the year. And I think that's the really important part. Thank you, Nachi. Thanking everybody. Also, Representative Curry wanted to see if we could reach out to the Office of the Child Advocate to discuss outplacements. And I think Brian Klemenkowitz is in touch with them all the time. And Tom, and I believe we're trying to find some time that we've invited them to our meetings. Also, did I thank Jane and Jennifer, because what they did is helped us get this text together, because we had to have a meeting in order to get this down into 15 minutes. And Catherine, didn't we end up with a couple of minutes left over?
Actually, we did. We did. We ended up with 1 or 2 minutes. We were really efficient and impactful.
Yes, I have no idea how we did it, because it was quite the stress. It's quite the stress. All right, wonderful. So next we're going to move on to, the Special Education Task Force did not meet this month, so I do not have an update. So I apologize for that. Hopefully I will have an update during our next meeting. We are continuing now with the membership committee report. Catherine Sum.
Okay, great. Thanks, Susan. So I just have a few items on my agenda, but first I really want to give a shout out to Tom Cosper, because after the last in-person meeting, which I unfortunately couldn't attend because I was quite ill, Tom really took the lead on recruiting potential legislative representatives on the council. He has followed up diligently with them, and they are being invited to the SAC meetings. I don't believe anyone is here today. I know the legislators are quite busy, but Jolie has them on a special list, and they are being included in all of our correspondences. So Tom, really thank you for that. And hopefully we will see some more legislative representation on the council. We currently have 4 vacancies. The other additional vacancy we have is with the Department of Corrections. So we're really in good standing, and I want to thank everyone here today, as well as I know there are some people who aren't here, but we really do have excellent attendance at our SAC meetings. And that being said, I know that some of you may be contemplating other opportunities, and if you are considering resigning from the council by July 1st, please reach out to me. I will put my email address in the chat. I'm the chair of the membership committee. And if you are going to leave the council, it's helpful for the membership committee to know that we need to begin recruiting new members for the council. But thank you to everyone for your contributions. And I'm always sad to see someone go. Tom, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it, though not needed. It's a team effort, and every one of us chips in the way we can. I happen to have a few connections up there, and have kind of been through the process. But I'll say this: I think in follow up to that, because I think it's going to take follow up. Again, right now you're not going to get anyone right now, just because they're super swamped in everything they're doing during session. But you'll get them off session for sure. If they want to engage, but I think it's important for us to follow up with them, and like send the minutes of the meeting, or, remind them of, and even Jeff Curry had said, like, hey, just send me the reminders, like, and I'll try to make it when I can. And oftentimes they're not gonna be able to, like now, but sending those reminders are helpful. So, and I know Jolie worked with us in getting those names on the list. Senator Seminara seemed very interested. She hasn't followed up because she's just super busy. And again, always hook up with the aides, connect with their aides, especially on the senator side or the committee chair side. Like, if you're not talking to their aides, it's really hard to get to them themselves, just because they're so swamped. But anyway, I think just, continually following up with them and not bothering them, but just enough where they're hearing our name and hearing our voice, and they'll get engaged, much like Robin did, a few years ago. So, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Anyone else have any comments about membership?
Me,
Yes, Susan.
Catherine, you and I had discussed that possibly we should put a disclaimer on the top of our membership, so that says we're going to, if you're not contacted immediately, don't worry, we look at it on a rotating basis.
Oh, okay. On the membership survey or on the website. Okay, let me follow up with Jolie about that. Yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because we do, sometimes people do express an interest in the SAC. They do complete the membership survey. And I typically just respond via email saying, thank you, we currently don't have any vacancies. However, we will keep your application on file should any positions open up. But we can just make that front and center right away. Thank you, Susan.
So much.
Anything else? No, thank you.
Thank you. Of the day. Just want to tell you that. Okay, next we have our legislative committee report. Mr. Jeffrey Spar.
Okay, thank you. So we're scheduled to have a legislative committee meeting this Friday at 9:30. I want to speak with Brian or hear from Brian about some of the initiatives that might be coming down the pike to see what we can discuss. Last week, he was good enough to give me some of those. It didn't seem like there was anything that was stunning enough that we needed to have a meeting, so we canceled it. The way we go about doing it is we put all the meetings on the calendar, so we have them. And if there's nothing that needs to be discussed immediately that day, then what we'll do is just cancel. But what we'll do is we'll preserve those dates. And I want to thank Jolie. She's amazing for doing all this stuff and running around. We couldn't operate without her. What I also did was I reached out there's a group called Seek CT, if anybody knows that. Now they're like a private organization, a lot of advocates in there, but I always wanted to know what they're kind of looking at. And I spoke to Andy Feinstein. I know Susan, you know him because he's the chairman of the task force. Some of the topics that they were looking at, because it's always good for us to know what's out down on the pike, is they're paying attention to the delay of the kindergarten start age. So that's one thing they're looking at. There's also the right to read mandate. That basically says that you have to follow the state mandate as far as the way to teach reading. And there's been some other school districts are objecting to that, saying that, we want to teach it our own way. So that's one of the areas they're paying attention to. One of the things they're going to advocate for is the right to school observation for both a parent and an expert, so that their parent could come in to watch the kid in class or see how the class is being taught. That's one thing that they're talking about. They're also paying attention to the restraint and seclusion laws. There's also having to do with the excess cost, the ECS formula. They're advocating for there also to be weighting to be put into the formula for the number of special education students. So not just the population or the difficult learners or whatever, but also to add as a component the ECS formula. I also had reached out to Jeff Curry as well, and to all the members of the Education Committee, just introducing myself and asking them as the legislative session progresses, if they could keep me posted on any of the things that come before them. And I received a response from Jeff Curry, and he said that we likely may have one proposal this year to address the notification to a parent/guardian if when restraint and seclusion occurs. So that's thanks to the speed date. So that's really good. So he's acknowledged that. And then he says the language proposed would change 24 hours to the same day. He says that they're eagerly awaiting the 2025 recommendations from the task force. So that's good news too. So yeah, again, that was good. So what we'll do is, and I wonder if you can indulge me for 1 second. I came across something that I had written back in 2012. I just wanted to share it with you guys, if that's okay. It will take maybe 30 seconds. Is that okay? Okay. So it had to do with my son was in school at that time, and he had been bullied on this. They were doing like a class play or something like that, and one kid was bullying him and was calling him a retard. And my son came home all crying and stuff like that. And I wrote this little notification that has to do with things such as this, and it's called Bystander. It's kind of based on, there was a famous thing called, and then they came for me. It was after World War II. There was a pastor in Germany that kind of had sat by and then watching people being taken away to concentration camps. And then he realized that, you have to speak out. So this is what I wrote. So thanks for indulging me. They surrounded Jim on the playground. He was small and sometimes needed to make noises. They called him retard and made fun of him. They made him feel smaller. I stood by and watched. I didn't want them to make fun of me. Jim didn't show up for school today. Next, they approached Maria. They accused her of not really being an American. They laughed and she ran away crying, ashamed of where her family was from. I did not stop them. I wanted them to think that I was one of them. Maria has not returned to school. I was there when they made fun of Alex in his wheelchair. They called him a cripple. He was not able to roll away from them. I watched this happen. I didn't say anything because I wanted to be popular. He has not come back. Then they confronted Sue in the hallway. They said she was ugly and had no friends. They made her hate herself. I was there when this happened. I want to have friends. That night, Sue cut herself. She's in the hospital. They intimidated Chris in gym class last week. They said he used the wrong locker room. They all laughed and made him feel ashamed of who he was. I saw this happen. I didn't want them to think I was like him. Chris hasn't shown up for school. No one has heard from him. I hope he's okay. They all went after Mary on their social media this week. They called her bad names and posted private pictures of her. I received all these chats and messages and did nothing. I didn't want them to think that I was a loser, too. Mary is going to a private school now. Today they surrounded me in the cafeteria. There was no one there to help me. I just wanted to share that with you. I came across it, I was going through some papers and I'm like, wow.
Thank you, Jeff. That was really poignant. I really appreciate that. I'm sure the SAC does. Thank you. It was really poignant. And oh, Mr. Kosker, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, Jeff, for sharing. That was nice to hear that. Just to get back to the legislative piece, I know we've talked about this in the past. CSDE and Brian or Sean can, fill in the blanks here, correct me if I'm wrong, has a legislative connection too that can help kind of filter through, so to speak, or highlight or alert us of, all the stuff that's coming up. So I just, caution against, I'm familiar with SEEK. I know a lot of the people over at SEEK well, but I just caution to use, they have their legislative agenda. Much of what they have lines up with what we agree with, but we have a lot of stakeholders on this thing, and not everything that we might have might line up with SEEK. So that's all I just wanted to say about that, but also to connect with, and I'm sure Brian and Sean can help us make that connection to that particular legislative liaison or something, whatever it is that might be able to assist. Because I know the process is maddening, at the legislative building and keeping track of that stuff. So anyway, thanks.
Yeah, no, Tom, I understand that. And I know that you say that every time I mention SEEK, and I'm not criticizing it. When I had a conversation with Andy Feinstein, and we were talking about the restraint and seclusion, I told him, I said, Andy, I said, we have both sides of the coin on this. And I said, we have administrators and teachers as well, and they're relying on the ability to have restraint and seclusion. And I also told them how my daughter is now a school psychologist, and that, they have, little timeout rooms and et cetera like that. So yeah, you're 100% right. And I told them that where we came down and that we had recommended that they would be studied by the task force. So yeah, I'm mindful of that. So, but I appreciate the reinforcing of that.
All right, thank you so much. And I also want to encourage anybody who might not have signed up for the legislative committee, you are welcome to join and drop into any of our meetings. You just need to let Jolie know so she can send you a meeting link. The meeting tomorrow again, Jeff, is when? 9? What time?
9:30.
Okay.
Was that 9:30 on Friday? Can we just
Friday, not tomorrow.
You're muted. Yeah, you're
Oh
muted.
my gosh, thank you. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's
no.
Thursday. I am off a few days today, so
Friday at 9:30.
so people put me back in the lane if you see me veering out of it today. I'm off a couple of days.
Yeah, Friday.
Wonderful. Jeff, thank you so much for all your hard work. And is that the end of your report? Yes.
I was on mute, sorry. Yeah.
Is that the end of the report?
If Brian can shoot me any initiatives that we might want to discuss on Friday, that would be great.
Wonderful.
I'll let him know.
Okay, so great. Okay, so next is new business. We have our round table. I feel like I should do a drum roll because I missed the round table. So I always get excited by the round table. So if you could raise your hand on your screen, if you have any, or just raise your hand, any updates from your stakeholders. This includes any unmet needs. You can pass, you don't have to say anything. Remember, events are not announced here, but emailed to Jennifer, and then those are sent out to the full SAC. So is there anybody who would like to start with the roundtable? Jane?
Sure. At CPAC, we like to share the trends of the calls that we're getting. And so some of the things that have been showing up in our office, which I would say, Susan, meets the unmet need issue, is we're getting calls from parents of students whose programs are being changed to half day or reduced because of behavior and lack of staffing. And so that's what's being stated to them, is that they don't have the people and the kids are too challenging. I've also seen a trend since the beginning of the year. It keeps showing up periodically of parents who registered their child in a new district and are waiting and waiting and waiting to be told where their placement is, weeks, days, rather than just being allowed to start school the next day. And these are all kids with IEPs, of course. I know that some staff have reported that the transition process, as Lisa Nee brought to us, is a very complicated, challenging process. And for families who don't speak English, if the documentation and the conversations aren't happening in their language, they're not feeling very connected to the process. and not feeling that they really have a voice in the process. And transition is very complicated, so it requires a lot of collaboration. I personally have been involved more recently in chronic absenteeism, so I've been hearing a lot more about our students with IEPs who have chronic absenteeism issues. And I guess what I would say is an unmet need is these parents are reporting the kids want to be in school, would like to be in school. They need different supports than they're getting in school in order to be there. And so there's a lot of issues with getting kids with IEPs into the building. Otherwise, they're chronically absent and losing credit. And our kids are highly represented in that population. And I think that's it for me as far as behavior is definitely restraint and seclusion continues to be a pattern of things that we're seeing regularly in our office.
Jane, can you help me out a little with some education? When you say that they're being reduced because of staffing to say half day, then they're not getting their required IEP services, right?
They're rewriting their IEP for a half a day.
They can do that?
They're doing that. I'm not going to comment on whether they should or shouldn't, but that's families are calling saying that they don't agree and that because their child is having behaviors, they would feel like more time is needed, not less time.
Okay. All right. I know, Tom, you have your hand up, but Brian, are you, you have your hand up. Is that for Jane?
I just wanted to reinforce that concept is not in compliance in any stretch or means. So, we talk about calls coming in and needing to follow up and communicating to ensure that districts are clear on their responsibility, parents understand their rights and students understand their rights. And PPTs can make decisions about programming, including placement, including length of school day, including how they're accessing the specialized instruction. But changing an IEP based on a lack of staffing is not acceptable or appropriate. So I just wanted to clearly state that, and I think that so we're all clear on that piece. In a case like that, it would be very fact specific, where we would want very specific information from the parent, from the district, to be able to discern or make that determination, whether that ultimately leads to a formal complaint or informally reaching out to the Bureau of Special Education in that context. That's something that we would be really particularly concerned about. Historically, Connecticut has done an amazing job there are very few students in the state, looking at our state data historically, that have shortened days. Other states have really had challenges with this issue for very complex students not receiving full traditional length of school day, if you will, and have had to put out guidance and information and parameters around what are the criteria and how or when a situation would be appropriate for having a shortened day for a student. Now, we have a whole host of student needs across the spectrum, all the way from students who are anxious and school avoidant, which definitely impacts their access to the school day, versus students that have challenging communication and or behavioral challenges. But I wanted to mention that because historically that has not been an issue. So if we're starting to get calls from parents concerned that decisions are being made on staffing versus student need, we want to really be on top of that, understand it from the perspective of the district and the parent, and as needed from the state, put guidance out to ensure that there isn't a misconception around that process.
Susan, can I just follow up with Brian for one thing? Brian, how is that data collected on the shortened day? Where does that
we have access to that historically through our data collections. Now, of course, with CT SEDS, we have access to the length of school day, amount of hours, again, I'm saying historically, because there have been states that collectively have had an issue in this area, and so that they've taken steps. Connecticut has not. I don't have the data in front of me now to share, but if that's something that the team is interested in, we can definitely pull that and show that data moving forward.
Thank you. Would you like to move on to the next person, or is that okay? I just want to make sure we finish this discussion. Okay, wonderful. Mr. Kosker, you waited so patiently.
Thank you. So just a couple of updates from Disability Rights Connecticut and the work that we're doing. We continue to do work on outplacement and least restrictive environment. We have a joint report with OCA, the Office of Child Advocate, that'll be coming out next week. That's related to some of that work. So you should all be seeing that come out. We also continue to do work on a number of different fronts on seclusion restraint. So I know kind of beating the same drum a number of others are, but hoping to make some movement in that area and continue to kind of work on that. Supported decision-making is another area that we've been involved with and we'll be working with Brian and the State Department of Ed on rolling out that update in the law last year around informing parents and students during transition time from age 14 up at annual PPTs about the transition aspect of decision-making, including supported decision-making, guardianship, conservatorship, etc. So we'll be talking with Brian about rolling out those resources, much of which exists out there. There's a supported decision-making coalition that we're a part of that exists in Connecticut that has a wide range of stakeholders that has put together a number of resources from national experts, et cetera, about it. And then the ultimate part of that law is to have the resources available and then have districts telling parents and students at PPTs about those resources. So I'll be working with him on that. I say him, Brian, the State Department. The last thing I'll just quickly highlight, which I sent around, or I had Jen send around because she does this wonderfully, the resource of our Education Rights Clinic. So Disability Rights Connecticut continues to have an education rights clinic. So I encourage you and invite you to share that widely amongst your stakeholders and families and parents and students to join, sign up for a 1-hour session with Disability Rights Connecticut staff, either attorney or advocate. And they have a 1-hour session where they can send in their IEPs and 504s and whatever paperwork and assessments, and then we can kind of go over that with them and answer questions and kind of review it with them. We found it's a good model to reach out and connect with individuals and families rather than just having them cold call, our intake line. It's a little more difficult to kind of really wrap your hands around an issue and a family's issue. So anyway, that continues to be offered, and we have sessions mornings and evenings, or excuse me, middle of the day and evenings, different days of the week. So again, I can share that again if you'd like. That's about it for now. I mean, there's other stuff that we're doing, but those are the most relevant to the work here at the SAC. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think it's going to go Nachi, Lori, Jennifer, Brian. I think that's how I saw the hands come up. So Nachi?
Thank you, Susan. I just want to bring up that DCF is ongoing work with children's mental health in that vein. Just want everybody to know on the SAC that if you don't already, that we have 4 urgent crisis centers available for families and children experiencing behavioral crisis, yet do not require emergency department level of care. These centers function as walk-in clinics and could be for children and youth who are experiencing behavioral health crisis, such as thoughts of suicide, self-injury, feelings of depression, anxiety, out of control behavior, substance misuse. There are 4 sites across the state, 1 in Hartford, 1 in Haven, 1 in New London, 1 in Waterbury. Again, this is ongoing work on children's mental health. And I just wanted to share that, as we often find that in the SAC as an unmet need, and we've worked on it for a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nachi. Lori?
Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it. So I wanted to just share that I've been hearing that outplaced students are the parents are basically promises are being made to parents, and the schools that they're in are not really following through on those commitments. And it's coming up more and more. I have been a leader in several of my kids' schools, and I've made lots of contacts with parents, and if they've left a school and gone to another, it just seems to be having an ongoing impact. And I'm hearing it more and more, and I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
So Lori, you're saying that they're going to a school assuming they're going to be getting certain services, and then when they get there, they're not getting them?
Well, it's either their services or their child has certain needs, and they're very upfront about those needs. And when they get in, the protocols or whatever's happening doesn't happen, so their child's needs aren't met, and so they end up needing to pull their child, or do something, and it's very, very, very disruptive to the child.
And again, for me to educate me a little bit, that student wouldn't have an IEP, so they
do. They do. However, it's more obviously it's included, but it's also just just the personality of the child, and the thing that the needs that are being met. And for example, I just spoke to a parent a couple of weeks ago where their child is very anxious and doesn't do well with tests yet, and they explain it to the school, and they're just not meeting the child where she understands the information, but it's not coming through with the test. So they keep the child in the school or at that point because she hasn't passed the test, so to speak, and ultimately causes the anxiety. So it's a vicious circle, and they're explaining it, but they're not being heard. And as they start to bring it up, they really have, and I've heard this from a variety of parents, there's really no one other than the recertification of a private school. There's really no one to share those concerns with to hopefully make that change, or and the schools kind of, from what I'm gleaning from the parents, they don't necessarily, the schools don't feel like anyone's really watching them, so they can kind of do whatever they want to do, is the perception.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Jennifer?
Thank you. And I just want to comment to Lori. Please remember that CPAC, the Parent Training Information Center in Connecticut, can talk with parents if they have concerns and they need help working with their teams on things like that. So if you need the information, we'll type that in the chat for you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I just wanted to comment on a thing that Jane had said about the shortened days, because it kind of is related to a problem we've had with parents that have been calling lately, is prior written notice not being filled out in a way that's meaningful for the family to understand the decision. And if there has been a refusal to change the provision of FAPE or any of the other reasons that you need prior written notice, that parents are actually being told that they will not document it in prior written notice. So if you have a situation like that, it's challenging for a family to be able to explain, to have proof, I guess, that it was a PPT decision if it's not documented in there. This happened in a case specifically where we've had two cases in 1 week that have called us, and so it's not, in the scope of Connecticut, that's not like a huge number, but it is concerning to us because it has the potential to be where young students who have come in to the district already having an augmentative alternative communication device have been told at their PPT that they cannot have their device at school until the school does their own evaluation. And that's a concern for students to not be able to have their communication devices at school, even having had their outside provider attend the meeting with them. And, as we see more and more kids coming out of birth to 3 having robust AAC systems, I think it's something that we should definitely be keeping an eye on, and maybe help families understand their rights more in their schools. to help understand the best practices for it, because not having communication leads to behaviors, and it really kind of stems to everything else that is important to us with LRE, restraint and seclusion, least restrictive environment, and even exclusionary discipline. So I just wanted to share that as a concern.
Thank you so very much. Catherine.
Okay, hi, everyone. I just wanted to, sorry, my hand. All right. Hi, everyone. Quick update on Bureau of Education Services for the Blind and the Children's Services Program. We have seen a real uptick in the number of referrals to our program this year. So that's great. People are aware of us and they're making referrals. It does impact staffing. I've also recently learned that there are 2 school districts who currently have their own teachers of the visually impaired, and they have requested BESB services next year. So I appreciate the advance notice from them. So several weeks ago, I did embark on beginning the recruitment process of new teachers. So hopefully we will be adequately staffed in September to meet the needs of all students who need our services. So that's an update for me. And just also to add, we do have a couple professional development events planned for education team members. We've got one coming later in the spring for birth to 3 providers. And we have one later this month for education team members working with children who are visually impaired, also multi-impaired with deaf blindness. And the focus of that training will have a real mobility component to it. So that's the update from me.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brian Smith, welcome. And I see your hand is up.
Good morning, everybody. My apologies for being off camera. I'm currently traveling. Couple quick updates from the Department of Developmental Services. In response to Public Act 23-137, we are in the midst of making offers to candidates for 10 transition advisor positions statewide. That is 1 refill in our Western region and 3 new positions in each of the 3 regions. So we're really excited about this because we will be going from 3 positions to 6 in all 3 regions, which will be able to dip down a little younger in the age group by which our transition advisors get engaged, also enhance our relationships and collaboration with school districts, and also with our friends over at BRS and Level Up Services. So we're really excited. We're hoping by the end of March, maybe the beginning of April, all those hires will be on board. Some people may have also seen some transition advisor positions with a special flavor or seasoning, shall we say, for to work with our self-advocate coordinators. We're in the midst of hiring 5 transition advisors just to work in collaboration with those employees. We currently have a couple, but we'll have 2 in each region to work exclusively with our self-advocate coordinators and all the amazing work that they do for our agency and our community. So they are finishing up interviews this week, if not next week, and we'll be extending offers to those candidates soon. In addition, for those who may or may not know, we did, the central office has created a children's services division, and Tammy Venegay will be the director over that division. That now has case management supervisor and 8 case managers. The bulk of the caseload is coming from our local offices and will be managed by that division. Youth who are age outs, residentially placed by other state agencies or school districts, individuals who are associated with our behavioral services program, etc. So a lot of that information is forthcoming, but they are in the midst of hiring a psychologist for that program, as well as an education support specialist, which I am sitting on that interview panel this week. So we're really excited about that enhancement as well. And they will be aggressively also working with school districts in collaboration with the State Department of Education as well. So a lot of exciting new positions, and a lot of this is stemming from legislation, which we are very thankful for. So.
Thank you, Brian. It's so nice to hear positive, happy things about positions, because I can still remember when you were saying we don't have enough staff. So, right. So this is really great. Does anybody else have their hand up before I? No? Okay. So for me, I know that I brought up the problem with the fact that schools are having some locked phone pouches. Students are having to keep their phones in, and they're not addressing special education needs for communication. And so now the governor has a new policy banning phones in schools, and that schools are going to have to figure out locked pouches or some way to do it for elementary. And so I didn't know, I'm assuming that goes through CSDE. The policy then is sent to CSDE. And I just want to make sure that in that policy that they're looking through the special education lens, because people often forget that that device is a important communication tool and an important education tool for a lot of students in special education. And before you comment on that, also I found out that parents are unaware that the all school safety and security template that schools have to fill out, each district has to fill out regarding what are their safety plans for their schools. Well, there's an Annex M emergency plan for students with disabilities that was I believe legislated or made law in 2021 of July. And a lot of parents don't know that their child has an emergency plan, if they have an emergency plan, what the emergency plan is. And so I am actually on a committee with Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security called ESF 15, which is emergency messaging for diverse communities. And I'm going to try to follow up on that. But I didn't know if, Brian, can you help with that at all? At least with the pouches? Because I'm sure, did it come your way? No?
No.
So they're not asking you, because I know there's like, I think there's a medical waiver, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get information back to you on that, Susan. I'm not aware of any new policy. I know there was discussion. Nothing has come through our office formally on that issue.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to bring it to your attention. Okay.
And as far as the security and the emergency, planning, I know there's significant work that has been done for our students that have, challenges and require specially designed emergency planning and individualized components of that. So, that is something that we are aware of, and we'll try to reinforce as we can. Especially with regard to the language and communication plan. I know there's a lot of work happening now with the structures and the groups that we have in place to take a look at programming for students that can help inform the IEP and consider those circumstances that may arise in school that need a different approach. We also had one of our former student members reach out via email to talk about his experiences in post-secondary ed. So I can share that information with the council as well, but just lessons learned from him about recommendations that he would have for the school that would help prepare him better for the secondary college environment. So post-secondary, excuse me. And so anytime that former students reach out, just want to acknowledge that and bring that to the attention of the full council and to lift up the issues that he's raising.
Thank you so much. Also, because it's so important that students know what their emergency plan is. Sometimes do that so then they can actually practice their emergency plan, and that parents know what their child's emergency plan is as well. So I just, I think that's wonderful that you're on top of that. And I'd love to know what that student said who was in secondary education. Could we possibly be almost on time? We're early now, right? Anyone else? First, Jennifer. Oh, I see hands. I'm sorry. Spoke too soon. Who is first, Missy or Jennifer?
I'm going to speak only because I want to respond to Brian. If you could share that information from the student, our next COP community of practice, transition community of practice meeting is March 14th, I think. And our topic is post-secondary education and preparing students for that. So if there are words of wisdom from that person, I would love to be able to share it at that meeting.
Absolutely, will do. Thanks for that timeline too, Missy, and we'll definitely coordinate that.
Thank you.
It was in the area of social skills on the college campus.
Okay.
Thank you. Jennifer, do you still have your hand up? Because I don't see you on my screen. You do not. Does
I
anybody have?
was just telling you that Missy's hand was up, that's all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I have to remember Missy shared some responsibility with me, right? So now I can tell when everyone's hand up, which is lovely. Okay, great. Anybody else for roundtable? Okay, then we are going to move to the BSE update. Thank you. Brian,
All
right?
I'll go ahead and share my screen. It wouldn't be a BSE update without a PowerPoint, right? I have some slides to guide our conversation. All right, folks, seeing that? Yep, all set. All right, Susan, stop me at any time if there's any hands raised. As always, please feel free to ask questions while I'm speaking. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. And I know we only have a few minutes left till the end of our meeting today. First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone again for all that you're doing for the council, all the progress that you've made with membership and interest, and the input that you're receiving from your catchment, from your representative groups is so critical and so important to the work that we do, not only as the state, but also to work collaboratively with all of our partners to ensure positive outcomes. And so there's a lot of great things happening in our state with regard to supporting students with special needs. We also know that there are challenges that we are facing and that we need to work together collaboratively to help improve and support both families and our schools so that our students can have the best outcomes that we know they're capable of, and exceeding those expectations, really. And so I've had the opportunity the last couple of months where school districts have invited me to programs that they're proud of and that are best practices for other districts. So as a practice, we're going to be communicating out those districts or collaborative efforts from the local level to highlight the wonderful work that is happening across the state for students with disabilities. And so I've been fortunate to be invited to 3 different programs so far in the last couple of months. It's been really wonderful for me personally, and also, you know, on behalf of the Bureau, to see that work coming to coming together to in the support of our students. So one of the programs I was able to see was a separate program that was run by ARESC. I was able to see a transition fair that a high school had set up for their students ages, in the high school level. Where it was a job fair and transition supports in their local high school gym. And then I had an opportunity to see a a transition vocation program from 2 public school districts working together to support their students who have acquired all of their credits and now are working on job, community, volunteering experiences. And it was just really a wonderful experience. So what I'll do is share with the council also, as I'm sharing back out with the field, those highlights of those practices that are happening and hopefully can be replicated and are being replicated across other districts. Just wanted to mention that. You're all aware we've been talking about general supervision throughout the course of the year and previous, for those of you who have been on the council for multiple years. And we've been doing a sort of a self-assessment as the Office of Special Education Programs at the federal level has released new guidance as of July around general monitoring and supervision for state education agencies. That's SEA. So the Connecticut State Department of Education is an SEA, and OSEP Office of Special Education Programs oversees our responsibilities as they relate to general supervision. And it's a complex system with a variety of components. Last session, you heard a couple of our consultants speak to our state performance plan, and you got an update on our indicators and the improvement activities that go along with that. On next meeting or our meeting in April, you'll hear from Tom Boudreau about our fiscal work and our IDA grant, and a little bit about how we support and monitor our school districts for the efficient and effective use of the funding that comes from the federal government. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about our integrated monitoring activities, just very briefly to give you some highlights and updates. But all of these systems work, they're interconnected and inform one another. So we've been working on a visual logo to help educators and parents understand these different systems and how they interact with each other for the ultimate goal of improving outcomes for students with disabilities. So that's how, that you can see the interconnection there. This isn't a finalized graphic, but it's an idea to give you a visual to see how these systems come into place and work. We've also been working with our stakeholders on a vision statement for our general supervision system. So I would really like the State Advisory Council's input. We've had some input from our LEA advisory. We've shared this with our special populations meetings that we hold. And so I'm sharing it with you now. It's a pretty polished final draft or a draft of a statement based on all the input that we have at this time. And although we don't have time to have a discussion today, I would like you to read the statement. Please provide us with your input. If you have suggestions for revisions or ideas or have questions about it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would like to start to use the vision statement to help people, again, understand and to be front-facing about the work that we do around general supervision. Here are just some broad-based ideas of what a vision statement should entail, kind of serving as that North Star. It's why are we doing all of the things that we're doing? And it's got to be, general enough to apply to all of the different areas, but still specific in the goals that we're working on. So as we've met with different groups, here are some of the concepts that have risen to the surface about what general supervision should entail. And I'll just give you a second to kind of read those through, but some were generated from members of our team at the department. Others, again, came from either the perspective of district leadership, advocates, and some of the other groups that we work with. So really wanted to make sure if you see a question I would pose to the advisory council are, do you see some concepts that may be missing from the general supervision aspect or questions that you have around this? But essentially it's the responsibility, the awesome responsibility that, the federal government has around accountability for special education, in turn where the state has that accountability, and then our local schools and programs with families in supporting students to ensure, again, the best possible outcomes for our students. So I'll just hold this slide up here for a few minutes and I'll read it aloud, but I know you'll want to kind of take this in, and again, not for, if you have comments, I'm willing and welcome to take them today, but we'll do have time to kind of view this and consider and see if there's any input that you'd like to provide. But it says the CSDE envisions a high-quality, integrated system of general supervision for the provision of special education and related services in Connecticut, resulting in positive outcomes for students with disabilities. Through a robust system of support and shared accountability, our goal is to improve students' educational outcomes, empower educators, and promote an inclusive educational system that prepares all students to thrive academically, socially, and personally. So as you can see, the support along with the accountability, because a very wise person once said, you can't do accountability without support. The support needs to be provided in a number of different ways, including resources, including information and training, and all of those really essential components to a system that's working, a well-oiled machine, if you will. Moving on, so one of those components, again, is the SPP APR. And as you know, one of our requirements is to ensure that all of the local education agencies, our local school districts, are given determinations each year based on the indicators that are the same throughout every state. The determinations, however, are developed by a group of stakeholders, and I'm going to talk in the next couple of slides about what is entailed in our determinations, and then give you a quick summary of the 2023 determinations, which are now posted on EdSite. This slide is just a reference point for you all of the two different areas of indicators. We have compliance-related indicators. You can see 4B there down through 13 on the left-hand side. Those are targets that do not need to be set from a data perspective because they're either 100% required or 0%. There's no target, they're not results-based indicators. On the contrary, the indicators on the right-hand side of the screen, we do set targets for and have data related to our progress to achieving those goals. And that's what we submit to OSIP on a yearly basis in our 6-year plan, which we did back in 2021. And we also have taken components of those different indicators to result in our determinations for our local school districts. So that's where there is some autonomy between schools. Just as a reminder, again, the determinations are based on the previous year data. And so there are limitations to what a school district can use as an actionable plan, but it is still very informative and important, to review that information to be able to incorporate into strategic local plans and improvement strategies within the district. So the indicators on the next slide, this shows you how our determinations are made. So you can see it's a group of indicators that are compliance related, as well as general supervision and timely and accurate data that we collect. And then if you recall, we added chronic absenteeism the last 2 years, which really we know where students are not engaged and participating in school, it really affects most of, if not all of those results-based indicators. So our districts are given the one of 4 determinations. The state also receives these same determinations from the federal government. So we're required to use these labels. And there are different levels in each of these 2 steps. And so each of the areas of designation require different action from the state and different actions or activities from the local school districts as well. Starting again with that concept of support and then accountability, we want to make sure the districts are aware of any training and technical assistance that it's available in that area of need that they may have. So this is a historical chart for you that shows over time the number of our LEAs that have met requirements, that were in needs assistance 1 or needs assistance 2 categories, and then needs intervention 1. We haven't had districts in need substantial intervention, and so that's why that column is missing from that from the chart. But as you can see, the 2020-2021 data reported in 22 was the first year that we incorporated the chronic absenteeism And we're also still looking at other ways to fold in and incorporate results-based indicators for our districts, again, to highlight and to understand the data that we receive at the state level. And so we've had a larger number of districts in needs assistance, as you can see, and then the needs assistance 2 as well. We did have 3 districts in needs intervention, 1 last year, and with the support and the technical assistance provided, they were able to move back out of needs intervention 1. So obviously we appreciate those efforts that our districts undertake in that context. Are there any questions? So this is a direct link for you all that will go to the local district performance reports, where you can select a district and see, again, those indicators and take a look at the overall reports. We do post the indicators along with the determinations. Also included in that document are things like the prevalence rates within the schools, as well as the number of students who are determined by their planning and placement teams to take the alternate assessment. And so there's additional helpful information, and our state systemic improvement plan, which you heard Alicia report on last meeting, is also captured within that one report. Any questions on that before I move to the next couple slides? Okay.
I can't see everybody's hand, so if someone has their hand up, and just let us know.
Thank you, Susan. A real quick in update too, and these are activities under the umbrella of integrated monitoring for the work that we do at the department. So we engaged in a desk audit IEP review. The districts you can see below were the districts that were selected this year for the IEP review. And those are the different areas that we were looking at. There is a compliance related review that we do with timelines and annual reviews. And we know that using the new system and using the new template and document was a learning curve for all of our parents and educators across the state. And so we are, using a rubric to be able to identify themes that have come about, and we'll share that information out. Not only helpful to the districts to receive that information back, but it also helps us to inform future training. I know prior written notice was mentioned today earlier in one of the updates. That is an area that we looked at as well to see, it is a different format. It is a different structure than our educators are used to. Where is the need as far as training and support to ensure accurate information is filled out, and for parents to understand what would constitute a prior written notice and what wouldn't. Every request doesn't constitute a prior written notice, as Jen mentioned, unless it's one of those 4 categories. So we do look forward to getting that summary out and sharing those themes out with you all as well.
Brian, quick question. Just a quick question, Brian.
Yeah.
For that last slide, do you not also review, because we've talked about transition a lot today, do you not also review transition? I know you said academic and functional skills, but are you not also during this IEP review reviewing transition pieces?
Yeah, transition is one of the indicators that is a compliance indicator. So we do on an annual basis, outside of our IEP desk audit, review transition.
That's outside of, okay.
Yeah, it's a separate process. So we look at something different from transition here because of the indicators cover the transition related issues that we're looking at. We're looking to ensure that students are invited to their planning and placement team meetings once they are of age. Of course, students can be invited at a younger age. We are also looking to ensure that school districts are inviting adult agencies to attend planning and placement team meetings, that goals and objectives for students of transition age in the area of post-secondary ed and employment, and when appropriate, independent living skills. Those are all things that we continue to monitor on an annual basis.
Brian, I had a
Thank you.
question.
You're welcome.
Brian,
Sure.
how are the districts selected? Is it some kind of rotational basis, or how are they selected?
Good question. Yeah, so we have our districts in 3 cohorts. There's cohort A, B, and C. And each cohort, there are 60 districts roughly. It's a little less than that in some cases. So we use those cohorts for our monitoring activities, such as our parent survey. And so the Office of Special Ed Programs, the federal requirement are for states to have a touch point with districts at least once every 6 years. So we have a cycle where we're at least touching point with district once every 3 years. We are reviewing that again and assessing that with the new guidance that OSIP has put out. But within this context, you could see this isn't 60 districts. So this was for the IEP desk audit. This was a subset of districts from from one of the cohorts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Finally, wrapping up here, just wanted to mention the new state legislation. So this is part of Public Act 23-137, which you heard Tom mention, which you heard Brian mention. It's a large, very large bill. And Section 48 talks about a new requirement for the State Department, which is to do unannounced on-site random visits for school districts within the state. And so just wanted to provide you with an update on that. We are starting our on-site monitoring visits this month and continuing through the remainder of the school year. We should be able to, based on our schedule, at least address 8 programs and or schools between now and the end of this school year. We've received really good feedback from, again, our advisory groups and our both the LEA advisory as well as our special population meetings, and getting feedback. And I know we've talked about this as a council as well, but we are partnering with CPAC to interview parents, which you could see as part of this new requirement. And so we've developed a parent survey that we send out to the districts and schools that we're going to be visiting. There's also a staff interview that happens. So we're partnering with CERC to do the on-site visits, and we have teams going out to schools and districts. And then as part of that, we're doing IEP reviews and then classroom observations. So the focus for this year is verification of implementation of IEPs, as well as least restrictive environment. And so we are meeting with the district's leadership in advance and providing a window of time that we'll be visiting their school and their district and the schools. We have teams of 2 going into the districts, and they're visiting 2 schools within the same day. So we'll have 4 schools total where we'll have that experience of classroom observation as well as the staff interviews. So this is a new process for us and a new requirement that was effective this year. So we are really thankful for the collaboration and the coordination to put forth this process, and understand as well that, through time, this process, we're looking to improve the process and build upon it from where we're starting at this time. But happy to answer any questions about that or any of the previous slides. And then any topics, as I mentioned, there's a lot going on in the districts and many new requirements from the last legislative session. And we all have our eyes and ears open for new bills coming down this year as well. So it's definitely a busy time of year.
Okay. Anyone have any quick questions? Because we are over time. No? Okay, Brian, thank you so much. I really,
Thank you.
that was wonderfully detailed explanation. Okay, so remember, our next meeting is March 27th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. That is also an online meeting. So would somebody please make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Jane. And a
Second that one.
Missy, great. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Wonderful. We're adjourning at 10:33 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for all your work and dedication. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
You.
leading us.
Great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.